Okay, so today we're diving into something that's, well, frankly, it's been blowing up online, and it's got me thinking a lot about, all the ways technology is changing how we handle money.
Yeah, it's been hard to miss, right?
It really has. We're talking about Coinbase's new AI tool for financial literacy. It just launched today, March 20th, 2025, and X is like exploding with takes on it.
Oh, absolutely. It seems like everyone's trying to figure out what it means,
Yeah.
what it means for crypto education, what it means for AI and finance, the whole thing.
Exactly. And that's kind of what we're here to unpack. But we're going to do it a little differently. See, alongside this new AI tool, what's got me really intrigued is this idea of habits.
Mhm.
Like, how do we actually form lasting financial habits? And could understanding that process actually help us make the most of these new tech tools?
That's such a good point. And honestly, it's a question that goes way deeper than just any single app or platform. We're talking about the fundamentals of how we behave with money.
You got it. So, before we get into the nitty gritty of Coinbase's AI, we're going to take a detour into the world of habit formation. And a perfect guide for that is Charles Duhigg's The Power of Habit. You familiar with it?
Oh, yeah, big time. It's a classic. And interestingly enough, it's actually a book that Brian Armstrong, Coinbase's CEO,
Yeah.
has recommended himself.
No way, really.
Yeah.
Well, that makes this whole conversation even more fitting. And you know what? For our listeners who haven't had the chance to read it, maybe a good place to start is that core idea from the book, the habit loop. What's the gist of that?
Right, so the habit loop. It's deceptively simple, but so powerful. Basically, Duhigg breaks down habits into these three key parts. You have
Yeah.
the cue, the routine, and the reward.
Cue, routine, reward. Okay, I'm listening. Break it down for me.
So the cue, that's the trigger. It's anything that signals to your brain, hey, it's time to go on autopilot, time to engage this particular habit. Then you have the routine, which, as the name implies, is the actual behavior itself. Could be anything, really. Physical, mental, emotional.
So, like, if I reach for my phone every time I feel a little anxious, the feeling of anxiety is the cue, and the routine is the phone grabbing.
You got it. And then, of course, you have the reward. That's the payoff, the thing your brain enjoys, the thing that makes it go, ah, that felt good. Let's do that again. And that reinforcement is what strengthens the whole loop.
I see. So every time I reach for my phone when I'm anxious, I'm probably getting some kind of reward, even if it's just a temporary distraction from the anxiety.
Exactly. And that's how the loop gets stronger.
Right.
It's all about that association between the cue, the routine, and that satisfying reward.
That makes a lot of sense. And the power of habit dives into a ton of examples of how this loop plays out, right? What's one that really stuck with you?
One that always comes to mind, and it's really powerful, is how Alcoholics Anonymous, or AA, uses this understanding of the habit loop to help people with sobriety.
Interesting. I'm curious. How so?
Well, what's brilliant about their approach is recognizing that you can't always just eliminate the cue. You can't always make the craving disappear. And you can't necessarily force yourself to just stop wanting the reward.
So what's the solution then?
It's about changing the routine. So when someone in AA feels that urge to drink, that craving, that's the cue. But instead of reaching for a drink, they have a new routine.
Ah, I see. So they replace the old unhealthy routine with the new one. What would that look like?
Exactly. So they might call their sponsor, go to a meeting, do something that connects them with their support system and reinforces their commitment to sobriety.
And that becomes the new reward, right? The feeling of support, the sense of community, the knowledge that they're staying on track.
Absolutely. It's brilliant. It's taking that same fundamental loop, but swapping out the middle part, the routine, to achieve a totally different outcome.
That is really clever. And it makes me think, how do we take this golden rule of habit change, as Duhigg calls it, and apply it to our financial habits? For the average person trying to budget, save, invest, that kind of thing.
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? And honestly, it's all about taking that same principle and applying it to specific financial behaviors. Let's take impulse spending, for example. A very common and often very frustrating habit.
Oh, tell me about it. I think we've all been there. That add to cart button can be so tempting. So how does the habit loop play into that?
Okay, so let's say your cue is, I don't know, feeling a little down, a little bored, maybe scrolling through social media and seeing all these shiny new things. The routine, of course, is making that impulse purchase. And the reward, well, it's that instant gratification, that feeling of, I deserve this, even if it's fleeting.
Right, that rush of getting something new. But then, of course, the guilt sets in later.
Exactly. So if you want to break that cycle, you got to identify that cue, that feeling of boredom, that urge to shop. Then instead of immediately going to that online store, You introduce a new routine.
Okay, so what could that new routine be?
Well, it could be anything that aligns with your financial goals. Maybe when you feel that urge to shop, you transfer a small amount of money into your savings account.
So I'm basically replacing the reward of stuff with the reward of seeing my savings grow.
Exactly. And over time, that new association starts to form. The cue of feeling bored, the new routine of saving, and the reward of financial progress. It's not about eliminating the desire, but channeling it in a more positive direction.
I like that. It's about working with our brains, not against them. Now, something else that Duhigg talks about in The Power of Habit is how organizations use these same principles, like how companies can actually build habits in their users. And this is where it gets really relevant to Coinbase's AI tool, right?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And this is where things get really interesting, especially in the context of technology and design. See, companies are increasingly using these habit loops in how they design their products, their user experiences.
That makes sense. Guess I never really thought about it that way. But yeah, app notifications, loyalty programs, social media feeds that keep you scrolling endlessly. It's all about keeping you engaged, keeping you coming back for more.
You got it. And the thing about Coinbase's AI, it seems like it's trying to do the same, but with financial education. The goal is to encourage users to consistently engage with crypto, learn about it, maybe even start investing, but in a way that feels natural, habitual.
So it's not just throwing a bunch of information at you and hoping you absorb it. It's about structuring the experience in a way that makes you want to keep coming back.
Precisely. And one of the ways they're doing this is with something as simple as daily crypto tips.
Daily tips, like little nuggets of information about crypto.
Yeah. And you know what? It seems to be working. There were reports right around when the tool launched in March of this year that sending out these daily tips, which act as a regular queue, led to a 25% increase in user engagement with the platform.
Wow, a 25% jump just from sending daily tips. That's pretty impressive. And you know what? That makes me think this isn't just a Coinbase thing, is it? This idea of using habit loops in customer education is popping up everywhere.
Oh yeah, it's definitely a trend. Think about what Binance did in 2025. They started offering NFT rewards to users who completed educational modules on their platform.
NFT rewards, that's interesting. I guess those digital collectibles act as a pretty enticing reward for some people.
Totally. It's like gamifying the learning process. And hey, if it gets people more familiar with crypto, more comfortable with the technology, why not? And the potential benefits for businesses are huge. Some estimates were saying, even back in 2024, that companies could see a 20% increase in user retention just by using these kinds of habit-forming strategies.
20%. That's a pretty compelling number. But hold on, even with all this talk about how effective habit loops can be, Duhigg also talks about some potential downsides.
Oh, for sure. And this is where we need to be careful, especially with all these new AI tools that are constantly competing for our attention.
I was just thinking that, like, how much is too much? When does trying to form new habits actually backfire?
That's the thing. Duhigg talks about this idea of habit fatigue. The idea is that if you try to change too many habits at once, or if you're constantly bombarded with new cues and routines, you're going to get overwhelmed.
Makes sense. Our brains can only handle so much new information, so many new behaviors at one time.
Exactly. And that's a big concern with these AI-driven education tools. If Coinbase, or any platform for that matter, throws too much at you, too many notifications, too much complexity, it could end up having the opposite effect. People will just tune out.
So it sounds like it's all about striking a balance, right? Providing those helpful nudges and cues without overwhelming users, making the experience simple, rewarding, and most importantly, sustainable.
Absolutely. And that brings us back to Brian Armstrong and his recommendation of the power of habit. What he seems to appreciate is that the book offers a really practical, evidence-based approach to behavior change. It's not just about gimmicks. It's about understanding the science behind how we form habits.
And it's worth pointing out, this isn't some new fascination for him. I was reading a Forbes article from 2019, and even back then, Armstrong was talking about using these behavioral science principles to shape how Coinbase engaged with its users. So this focus on habits seems to be a long-standing part of his vision for the company.
Yeah, and when you see it in that light, the launch of this AI tool in 2025 feels like a natural progression. It's about empowering users through education, yes, but also about helping them develop healthy financial habits.
And people are clearly paying attention. The fact that this is trending so hard on X, over 15,000 mentions as of today, tells you something. It sparked a real conversation about the role technology can play in financial education.
What's really interesting about all the buzz on X, since it launched on March 20th, is that it reveals something really important. People are hungry for ways to learn about finance, especially crypto, that are engaging and accessible. A lot of the discussion is about how this AI tool could potentially make crypto less intimidating for the average person.
Which, like we've been saying, ties directly back to the principles of habit formation. It's about making learning about money, investing, all of it, less of a chore and more of a natural part of your day.
Exactly. And for those of you who've been following along with our deep dives, this builds on some of the stuff we covered in episode 15 about the crypto landscape as a whole, and episode 17 where we talked about WorldCoin. All of these things are connected.
They really are. And just to be clear, this trend of AI in financial education, it's not limited to crypto. We're seeing AI-powered budgeting apps and personal finance tools popping up everywhere.
Everywhere. TechCrunch was reporting that these AI budgeting apps have seen something like a 30% increase in users just this year. So clearly, there's a growing demand for technology that helps us manage our money better.
All right, so let's bring this all home for our listeners. Imagine this. You decide to check out Coinbase's new AI tool. Every day, it sends you a quick, easy-to-digest explanation of some crypto concept. That's your cue. You spend a few minutes reading it, maybe answering a quick quiz question. That's your routine.
And the reward? Well, it could be anything from a feeling of confidence in your growing crypto knowledge to maybe even unlocking a small amount of a certain cryptocurrency as a bonus for participating.
It's like those gamified learning platforms we were talking about. It's taking something that could be pretty complex and turning it into a regular, manageable routine.
And that's the power of understanding how habits work. Whether you're using Coinbase's AI or any other financial tool, knowing how to leverage those habit loops can make all the difference.
So here's a parting thought for everyone listening. As all these AI-powered tools become more common, more integrated into our lives, how can you use this knowledge of habit formation to your advantage? What are the cues, routines, and rewards that are shaping your financial behaviors right now? And how could you tweak those, even slightly, to better align with your goals?
It's about taking control, being intentional. Because in this new world of AI and finance, understanding the science of habit formation could be the key to making these technologies work for you, not the other way around.
So much to think about. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive.
You got it. Always a pleasure.